ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, is a center of pride for India. Frugal, world-class engineering and brilliant dreams inspire countless citizens across our country, in fact across the world. ISRO has grown and become technologically advanced over the years. A new generation of rockets, new satellites and now new ambitions to land a rover on the surface of the moon. Chandrayaan 3, India's latest moon mission, blasts off this Friday. The goal is clear: put an Indian lander down on the surface of the moon and then roll out an Indian rover. Now, just a handful of countries have been able to do this. Wouldn't it be fantastic if India could do this as well, particularly since Chandrayaan 2 didn't quite work out, falling short of its ultimate mission objectives just when it seemed that we would have a lander on the moon's surface. So that's what we are looking at in this very special program. Pallav Bagla with me in the studio. Pallav and I have tracked just about every major ISRO mission for the last decade or so.
Yes, lots of
Dr.
time.
Amitabh Ghosh, a leading NASA scientist, very much somebody who's tracked the entire NASA Martian program. Annapurni Subramaniam is at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. She's the director there. And Dr. Madhavan Nair needs no introduction, former ISRO chief. Dr. Nair, are you excited about this visit? What does it mean for ISRO? What can it mean for India?
Well, as far as ISRO is concerned, it's going to be a major milestone and a stepping stone towards the future planetary exploration. Already ISRO has made some beginning in exploring the moon as well as the Mars, but actually having a rover and physical presence on the surface of the moon has been a dream for quite some time. And this is going to be the moment in which we are going to prove that.
Okay.
In fact, there was an attempt about 2 years back. Unfortunately, it didn't succeed fully. But now, again, the experiment is being repeated, by which our technological skill and excellence will be proven so that we can have our probes and robotics landing on the moon or Mars for the future exploration. So this is going to be a major advancement in terms of technology and also the scientific information which will be gathering about the planets from these missions.
Okay.
So that is very, very important milestone as far as ISRO is concerned.
Sure.
Especially after the last failure, recovery from that is very important for ISRO.
Pallav, things broke last time. We fixed them. What was the problem and what have we fixed?
What was the problem is still a little bit of a question mark, but what has been fixed is that we have a lander which is more robust, the software is more robust, there is testing which has been done which is far more than what was done earlier. I said that when Chandrayaan 2 went up, that we sent up an under-tested machine, which is why it failed in off-nominal conditions. This time, the off-nominal conditions are where it has been designed for. So the Vikram lander is far more robust, both for software, navigation, and for landing. And remember, Vishnu, from Chandrayaan 2's Vikram failure, we have some very high-quality images of the same area where we are going to land again.
Right.
So it's the same area, and we've literally mapped the terrain to 30 centimeter resolution. So we know literally every boulder, every crater. And now there is more fuel on Vikram, so that if it doesn't go to the right place or it encounters a boulder or something, it can go on to another location.
And Pragyan is the rover, right?
And see, there is the Vikram is the lander. In the belly of Vikram is the Pragyan rover. And once the lander does its job perfectly, then the rover comes out, and then we will see selfies from Pragyan to Vikram and Vikram to Pragyan. So the Indian flag on the moon and selfies coming for the first time from the lunar surface is what I would be looking forward to.
Annapurni Subramaniam, from a scientific standpoint, Chandrayaan 1 did brilliantly. I mean, it was an Indian mission. The detection of water molecules underneath the surface of the moon or in the moon's atmosphere as well, as I understand it. What is it that Chandrayaan 3 seeks to do now, from a scientific standpoint?
Yeah, so far we understand the equatorial region of the moon. We do not understand much from the southern part of the moon as such. And we expect that the southern part could be quite different from what we have seen so far. And we have seen that the southern polar region has more water. And then what happens when you are in the, sunlit area as well as the, where the sunlight is not falling. And one thing we should also remember is that we are looking at a place where there is hardly any air, and, there is hardly, there is no gravity as such. So when you have this less air, then the conductance of the temperature, when you say that one side is sunlit, then how much the temperature transfers to the other region, we have no idea. So the conductivity based on the regolith conductivity as well as the air conductivity, we have no idea. So the temperature probe will tell you that how exactly is the thermal conductivity over there. And of course, when we have to go there and take things, then the how safe it is, how stable it is with respect to earthquakes, not earthquakes, the moonquakes. So we need to figure out how stable things are. So those things are actually studied over there in this particular mission. So these two are the major experiments, and also the probes which will dip inside the surface will tell you the elemental abundances with respect to various minerals.
Dr. Ghosh, simple question, maybe a tough answer. Why is it so difficult to land a lander and a rover and to get a rover onto the surface of the moon? Why?
So I'll answer this, and there's something else I wanted to mention. Why is it important? So because you're slowing something down from very high velocity to just under maybe 10 miles or even lower. Otherwise, if you hit something at slow down to 100 miles an hour, it's still going to be destroyed. So there is no 99% success. It is 99% success equates to failure. So one quick thing I wanted to mention, that we are in a very different scenario with the second set of human landings on the moon, and then the talk of the lunar base. So it's a very critical time for India to build this capability to land softly on the moon. So it's a very different from Apollo, where people were trying to go to the moon for the first time. Now they're thinking of going there to stay. There are private missions being attempted. So it's a very interesting scenario that multiple countries will try to go back, and so it's very critical that Chandrayaan 3 is successful.
Dr. Madhavan Nair, we don't have a rocket powerful enough to go to the moon directly, so we use some smart mathematics and computations to slingshot the vehicle using Earth's gravity in the direction of the moon, right? How does that work?
Well, it's actually, we have been exploring what is the best way of reaching to the moon. And in fact, in the Chandrayaan 1 mission itself, we have perfected that technology. Initially, we used a huge rocket to take the spacecraft into a highly elliptical orbit around the Earth. And from there, we tried to raise the orbit step by step using the propulsion system on board the satellite. This, of course, what we are doing is because there is a influence from the other planets and the sun, etc., become predominant, and we don't have any first-hand knowledge of that. Several missions in the past have failed mainly because of the wrong mission planning and the trajectories. So we try to calibrate this trajectory using this step-by-step process and ultimately arrive near the moon. Actually, the final shot, you give a velocity sufficient to escape from the gravitational field of Earth, and it will be having a free travel through the outer space. From there, whether it goes to the moon or Mars, it is only the question of pointing the velocity vector in the required direction. And later, the most critical event is to capture the spacecraft around a particular planet. For example, moon, when it reaches around 500 kilometers away from the lunar distance, the rocket engines are fired in the reverse direction. The velocity is brought down sufficiently low so that the gravitational pull of the moon itself will be able to take the spacecraft into its orbit. This orbital maneuver is okay. But at the same time, the landing process is extremely difficult. In the Earth-related thing, human landings, what you are planning for the future, the spacecraft recovery we have planned in the past, you break the orbit and enter the atmosphere. The atmospheric drag parameters are made use of to reduce the velocity and ultimately have a soft landing. Whereas moon, it is not possible because there is no atmosphere. And also the gravitational field around the moon is not well understood. So we had to have a very cautious approach of detaching this rover from the mother craft and later descending it gradually. In the last mission, what happened was everything went perfectly well until about 2 kilometers above the surface of the moon. At the time, this platform was supposed to be virtually suspended by the rocket motors and slowly brought down onto the surface. But unfortunately, something went wrong, either algorithm or in the hardware, and that is what resulted in the crash. Now, ISRO has done a lot of studies on this, a lot of simulations on this, and now, of course, we hope that this type of event will not take place. But ISRO always has been cautious in having a large number of simulations of the failure modes and also the possible scenario one can encounter in these things. But still, we have to keep our fingers crossed because we don't know the moon that much. You know, the first lunar mission has failed mainly because of the large temperature gradient from the lunar surface, which we never expected. From the Earth, it looks so cool. Here again, the gravitational anomalies which exist because of the mounds and the craters, that is unknown. So in the unknown territory, without any guidance, any landing instrumentation, we are going there.
Okay.
The onboard instruments, cameras, and the laser ranging system, etc., has to guide itself to have the soft landing. So
All right.
that's going to be a complex process.
Okay, Pallav, what will the rover do, and how long will the rover last?
Well, let me add one thing which I forgot to add in the first. One big change which has happened in Vikram is in Chandrayaan 2, Vikram had 5 engines. Vikram lander had 5 engines, 4 on the corner, 1 in the center. Now that 5th engine was introduced into the program very late and enough testing was not done. This time that 5th engine has been removed. So this time the landing is being attempted with there will be 4 engines, but the last landing will be done by firing 2 engines. So that gives them an opportunity to understand how the 4 engines are doing. But ultimately, proof of the pudding is having a soft landing on the lunar surface in the same area which is close to where moon impact probe of Chandrayaan 1 landed, where Vikram failed in Chandrayaan 2, and now Chandrayaan 3 is attempting in the same area. Now, when the Pragyan rover goes on to the surface, one of the first things it will do as it goes down the ramp is take images of the Vikram lander. Ultimately, it will go around the Vikram, the lander, all around like a 360 degrees, and it will also do in situ testing. So the lander and the rover are carrying the same set of experiments which were carried in Chandrayaan 2. No difference in that. There is an extra instrument which is there on the propulsion module, which is to look at what are the signatures of life as you see of Earth from the moon. So later, if you want to look at exoplanets for life, then that is what signatures you have to look for. And there is also a laser instrument from NASA, which is a small passive instrument. But essentially, the science is what we couldn't attempt earlier. But the Vikram lander is also, there are several velocity instruments which have been added. Doppler instrument has been added to make sure that you get the right estimates. And most importantly, how it would perform when the conditions are not normal or nominal.
Right.
That is the critical part which was left out during the Chandrayaan 2, and it was very unfortunate that the mission was hurried through by ISRO at that time. It could have gone off well till the last minute, who knows.
Annapurni Subramaniam, we don't talk enough about what Chandrayaan 1 achieved, but detecting particles of water, it's a huge scientific achievement. Could you tell us what Chandrayaan, and in other words, our own engineers, scientists, our own mission was able to achieve on that occasion?
Yeah, so we had M3, which is basically NASA's payload on the Chandrayaan 1. Apart from that, we also had this Moon Impact Probe, MIP, which actually was released about 100 kilometers or so, and it crash landed on that. And we had several experiments which actually gathered, the data asset descended down. So this detected, hydroxyl or presence of water Along with it, M3 also announced the presence of water from there, but they could not see whether it is actually a hydroxyl, which is like the, mineralogy from there. It is coming from the OH molecules or the H2O kind of a thing. But then that basically kick-started the entire thing in that direction, that previously there was a negation. There was no evidence of not even OH anywhere. But now it's completely changed. And then people started looking for more and more evidences. And then recently, SOFIA, the near-infrared, which flies on the instrument which flies on the aircraft, which has detected, mapped, and then found that the polar regions can have much more water. And we know that the South Pole can have, even the sunlit as well as the shaded areas can have water. And the next things to how much water it is, how much can be extract, and the talcum powder, like the particles which are there in the moon, how do you separate it out? So all these kind of huge amount of questions. And of course, whatever exosphere the moon has, several elements over there, and we need to know the content exactly, what it is, how much it is, and that is what these instruments are going to measure. So these are very important steps, baby steps, but important steps to move forward to understand what is out there.
Dr. Ghosh, if there is a significant find of water which can be extracted, what will that mean?
See, that changes everything. See, if you think of what, when America was discovered, human explorers set out. But the successful, settlement of humans would not have happened if there was no in situ resources. We call it in situ resources, as in you could cultivate the land, you could be self-sufficient. You cannot just keep on carrying things from Europe to America. So that is the analogy. Here, if you imagine, if you're going to the moon, logistically it is not difficult at all. It takes you to go, say, 24 hours to go to the US. This is probably, if you have a strong enough rocket, it to 72 hours. But you need to be self-sufficient. You need water for the return journey, the fuel for the return journey. You need water for use by humans. You need water for manufacturing oxygen. It's such a huge deal. And this is going to be super important, because now the goal is, like Blue Origins is exploring, trying to set up a lunar base. So all this does not happen if you have to somehow carry this water from Earth. It is going to be super expensive. So I think we are in a very different mode. This is not exploration. This is kind of, we are trying to test technologies that will make the moon a permanent base, just like Antarctica. And, the first step, for example, on Mars has already happened. There's an instrument on Perseverance which has manufactured oxygen on Mars. So these steps will happen, and the Artemis program will start rolling in a year or two, and then, it will be a very different mode of exploration internationally.
Okay. Pallav, what is ISRO's next step, assuming this mission is successful?
First step, have a good launch on Friday.
2:35 p.m., right?
2:35 p.m. Send the Chandrayaan 2 propulsion module, Vikram lander, Pragyan rover into the Earth orbit, send it to the translunar orbit, get it captured on the moon, have a safe landing, and that's big deal. And finally, we would have imprint of India on the moon,
So how
not
is that
just
going
the
to
moon.
work? How will there be a flag? I mean, there would be
There is a flag which has been imprinted on the rover and also on Vikram lander.
I see.
And there are cameras which will take images on both sides. And as the rover goes around the Vikram lander in the 360 mode, because the sun is on one side, that you will get images of all of that. Now, beyond that, Chandrayaan 3 is one mission. India also has plans to revisit Mars as a mission to Venus. But very soon in August, we have a mission coming up to study the sun, Aditya L1 mission. First time we are sending a mission to study the sun, essentially to protect our own satellites, to understand why the sun gets angry, and when it gets angry, what sort of damage it can do on Earth.
So you forgot to mention the really big one.
That's still further away.
We're talking
which
about
is
Gaganyaan, of course.
Gaganyaan is still further
The
away.
human
Aditya is coming
Sure.
in August. Gaganyaan is to send an Indian astronaut into space from Sriharikota. But before that, we may see an astronaut going to the International Space Station alongside with the help of NASA. So there are amazingly important missions, both for scientific purposes, for geopolitical reasons and to send an Indian into space. That's really a big deal. It's the single most expensive scientific experiment India has ever done, costing almost about 9,000 to 10,000 crores. It's a big deal. Chandrayaan is a really big deal. But before that, we will have an astronaut going to the International Space Station. Modi and Biden have both agreed to get that done.
Dr. Nair, final question to you. China has managed to get a rover onto the surface of the moon. America has, Russia has. And so then have the Europeans managed, or would we be next?
Well, Europeans have not done it directly, but they have had a ride with the NASA spacecraft, some of the instruments going on to this one. So we have a unique position as far as the landing there is concerned. And mind you, all these are homegrown technology. That's what we should be proud of. It is not that we have borrowed or got technology from outside. Sending a person in the SpaceX or something is not going to be the challenge. But the Gaganyaan, for example, is going to bring a lot of new technologies to the country, not only in the space technology, but on the human physiology and behavior in the zero-G conditions and vacuum conditions and so on. And this all will be providing an impetus to our planetary explorations for our future. Of course, it will have two components. One will have a robotic exploration, other will be the human presence. For both, India will get prepared, and we are on the right track as far as this is concerned.
It does, of course, mean that we are going to have to commit a great deal more to our budgets. It is only so much that ISRO can do with their frugal engineering and inexpensive space travel. Ultimately, if you want to be in the big game, then you need to roll out the big money as well. Smartly, but you still do. And that's something which perhaps needs to be looked at in the future. Look, we're going to be back tracking a lot of this, and it's going to be so exciting. One final word for our viewers. It's going to take some time for Chandrayaan to actually reach the orbit of the moon. So what, the 26th of August?
Let it go up first. Let's count our chickens.
I'm assuming
23rd of August is when it's targeted. So it has to land during the lunar day, which is 14 days of sunlight.
23rd, 24th.
The 23rd, right now, let's assume when it goes. Let's not count our chickens before they are hatched.
No. Let's hope now. We were so close, Pallav and I. We had to, through the night we watched the last one. This had better work. 23rd.
It will work this time.
23rd or so of August is when we're going to be back in the studio, analyzing all of it. Thank you very much for being with us. Good night.